It is a family album like no other. The great faces, the great moments of the movies. And much of it is fading away.
We've lost 90% of the silent film that was ever made, 50% of the film before 1950. If we don't find a solution, 500 years from now or 300 years from now, nobody will be able to understand what the motion picture was.
This is what's happened. Films done in by the ravages of time and chemistry. Studios and film archives have joined the battle, using all the tricks of the trade to restore the brilliance to endangered classics.
Get the motor running.
But for every well-known film restored, there are countless B pictures, newsreels, and silent films whose days are numbered.
They ought to be saved, and right now, unless the archives find the means, they won't be.
And so, for films famous and not so famous, the enemy is time. To find out more about the race to preserve America's film heritage, log on to American Movie Classics' website at amctv.com. And remember, archives count on public support to keep this irreplaceable family album from vanishing. For AMC, I'm David Browning, reporting from Hollywood. Think of preserving and restoring films, and you think of the treasures that studios and archives have saved over the years. Silent movies, film noir, westerns, widescreen epics. But there's another kind of film that needs preserving, just as historic, just as endangered. The newsreel.
Back when I was a youngster in Brookline, Massachusetts, we used to go to the Capitol Theater on Saturday afternoons. It cost us 20 cents. And among the short subjects, invariably, was a newsreel.
Bruno Richard Hauptmann is found guilty of kidnapping the Lindbergh baby.
Amelia Earhart, America's foremost woman flyer, disappears into the unknown.
1934 proved a bad year for the nation's public enemies, with John Dillinger shot to death.
And the newsreel was such fun because you saw all kinds of things. It was a quick history lesson about people overseas and leaders who were involved in wars, and you would see the Hindenburg go down.
As the blazing airship hits the ground, many leap, some to safety, some to death.
You would see Hitler, the courage of the British.
Havoc of the first Nazi air raid on London.
There was no television back then. This was our beginning at seeing events around the world. You would see these things, and they really came home to you.
They first appeared, the newsreels, back in 1911, bringing moviegoers astonishing sights they'd never seen before. By the 1920s, the newsreel company's ace cameramen were cranking out 60,000 feet of film a week.
The pictures you're about to see provide one more remarkable instance of the courage and devotion which have made the newsreel cameramen the pride of the motion picture world.
These were guys who went every place around the world to shoot the most exciting things and the most important individuals.
With J. Edgar Hoover at its head, the Bureau of Investigation...
Rom Bowner Joe Louis gets ready for the climax of his career.
Just married, Clark Gable and Carol Lombard arrived...
Gable even once played the role of the intrepid newsreel cameraman. And with the coming of World War II, the newsreels pressed young newspapermen into service.
I did appear briefly in the newsreels at the old Paramount News. That was the first time I'd ever been on camera.
I'm just back from the biggest assignment that any American reporter could have so far in this war, covering the occupation of North Africa by American troops. I represented the United Press.
It was quite an exciting experience.
For 50 years, what you saw of the world came through the newsreels. They died out with the coming of television, and now, at archives around the country, newsreels are in danger.
Even looking at UCLA alone, There's 27 million feet of newsreel that are sitting there. The whole history of the 20th century.
27 million feet of film that translates to about 5,000 hours of viewing time. So it would be a full-time job for a long time for one person just to look at it.
Look what Earl Carroll drew when he advertised for stage charmers, a regular army of hopefuls.
That will be all for today, young ladies. Oh!
It's my understanding that a lot of these old newsreels are beginning to fall apart. They're beginning to disintegrate. They're turning into powder. And it would be a pity to let them go that way.
That's our collective history, and that is solely the responsibility of an archive. Unless we find the resources and means to do it, that will go.
It's extremely frustrating, knowing what I do about what is there and what can be done with it.
What moving picture is there of history before television came along? What moving picture is there, except the newsreels, of real history? There's none. That's why it's so absolutely vital to take good care of them.
It's vital and it's urgent. These are newsreels beyond saving, the sights and sounds of the century going in the trash bin. Support film preservation, and you help save a bit of history. For AMC, David Browning reporting from Hollywood.